If you've been feeling the call to write a book, it is no accident. Your book is needed in the world, so let's make it happen. I'm Nicola Humber, and this is the Unbound Writers Club. Hello, and welcome to the Unbound Writers Club. Today, I'm joined by Heather Nicole, who is the author of our latest release at the Unbound Press, Diary of a 30-something Widow. Heather is such an incredible woman. We first connected 3.5 years ago when we had a conversation about a book she felt called to write. She signed the contract to publish her book with us at the Unbound Press, and within a few days, she experienced a profound loss, which changed the course of her book writing journey. And she could have stepped out at that point, but she didn't. She continued saying yes to this book, and now it is out in the world. So I am really, really excited for you to hear more about her journey, how she has walked through the fires of transformation and really said yes to the author she's here to be and what's next for her as well. Anyway, let's get to it. Here's Heather. So, Heather, welcome to the Unbound Writers Club.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm excited for this conversation to see what wants to come through. I do always begin with the same question, which is what makes you an unbound writer? Is there something in particular about the way this book has come through for you, how you write, that feels like you're doing it differently?
That's so interesting. Well, yes, first of all, thank you so much for having me here and inviting me into this beautiful space. So, the idea for this book landed 3.5 years ago,
Mhm.
and I believe I spoke with you about the contract, and I was already getting downloads and just ideas of how I could move through it and get it going. And I spoke to my husband, and he was like, I just talked with a friend who wrote a book, and he needed to go away for like 3 months, and like that's all he needed to do. And I looked at him and I was like, that is not what I need to do. I was like, no, no, that's not what I'm saying I'm going to be doing here. And then, like, literally, I signed the contract, and days later, he died.
Mm,
And so, I think that is part of what makes me an unbound writer is like,
yeah.
no, I'm not going to subscribe to whatever anybody else says I have to do to write a book. And then I mean, my life just the second I said fully yes to it, everything fell apart, which
Mm,
became unbound.
yes.
There there were no boundaries, no limits to what I was stepping into. And, the way this book came through, there were many days, many hours of writing, and I just allowed myself to write what came through. And then as I started to kind of be able to come up for air in my life, I was able to then kind of go back and read through and look at things and see how some of it was just me needing to get things out. So that didn't need to go into the book. But I allowed so many different parts of myself that were showing up during that journey to come through and to be in the final edit and in this final book. And that felt really important because each part of me, each version of me had something important to say or said something a certain way that just still resonated or felt important.
Mm.
And so I feel like all of that, I guess, makes me an unbound writer as
Very,
well.
very.
Um, yeah, and allowing, the idea of the book that came through when Tripp died, it too shattered and became unbound and just really changed. But it was in it was in a conversation with you. I think it was a couple years ago.
Hmm.
At this
Yeah.
point, the time is so wild. But I think it was a couple years ago we were talking because I was moving through that transformational, like birthing your transformational book with you,
Yeah.
and we had our call and we were talking and you said, Heather, this is still that book. It's just, it's called something different now, and it just is looking different than you thought it was going to. And I got really emotional because I was just so amazed. Then yes, of course it was still literally the same book, but just dressed differently and not at all how my ego thought it was going to look.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
What's coming through, actually, as you say that, it's almost like this book kind of landed, came through almost to hold space for you and what was going to unfold and this journey that you've been on over the past 3.5 years. Obviously, the title changed because now it's Diary of a 30-something Widow. And when you first felt the call to write a book, that wasn't you.
yeah.
So, I mean, can you take us back to the beginning of like when you first had that spark of an idea for the book? Was that quite soon before we actually connected, or had it been bubbling for a while for you?
No, it landed really fast. And
Mm.
and I mean, I had already, I'd collaborated on a couple books that the
Yeah.
Unbound Press had published, and so I was very much kind of in that realm, but had never the idea of, oh, I can write a book had been percolating for a while, like a year and a half maybe, of being able to actually see myself as an author.
Mm.
Uh, but when that idea landed, I mean, I was like, yeah, let's do it. I didn't really think twice about it, except for, after talking with you and looking at the publishing package and talking with my husband and stuff, he did give me his blessing to move forward with it, which is why I signed the contract when I
Mm.
did. But yes, I actually write about it in the book where it's like, because the original title was Diary of a 30-something crone, where I
Mm.
was
Yeah.
I was being able to see how even in my 30s, I was kind of already moving into that crone energy, and through my life experiences I'd gained a lot of wisdom.
Mm.
And so, we typically think of a crone as that the archetype of the older
Mm-hmm.
woman, but it's almost like on a soul level we can be a crone at any age. And I thought that I had learned so much, but when I said yes to it, and then yes, like, was literally just taken into the experience that I needed to fully embody my crone. Uh,
Mm.
the book catapulted me, but yes, also held the space.
Yeah.
And so really, again, what was coming in early on for the book, I thought, well, I journal every day. I'm just going to journal and like my diary, and just take for 30 days, take each entry, and that's going to be the book. And it felt so easy and effortless, and it was like, no,
That's not happening.
that's too easy, Heather.
What were you thinking?
What were you thinking? And I mean, when you say yes to something like that, that really, I do think has been a call on my heart, but I wasn't ready, willing, or able to say yes to it, give myself permission,
Mm.
and thought myself worthy enough to be an author. I've had to move through all of that on so many levels since Trip died. And so, of course I had to, in order to be able to birth a book and to be
Mm.
here
Mm.
now as I am.
It's quite amazing having this conversation. I work with a lot of different authors and have conversations with people who are thinking about writing a book, and it's like, oh, well, I need this thing to be complete, or I've got a lot going on in my life, so I'm not sure I can find the time or the energy or the capacity to do this. And you've been through this, huge life change, which happened right after you said yes to writing this book. How, I mean, even, over the 3.5 year, I mean, it's a relatively short amount of time considering, this experience that you've had of your husband passing. How did you navigate the writing process through that? I mean, were you writing like straight away? Were you coming back to journaling, or did you take some time and space?
I mean, journaling's been a really big part of my daily practice
Mm,
for, gosh, I don't know, the last 6 years maybe. And I used that really to help clear my head. I had so many thoughts and so many things that my mind just looped a lot. So I started to use that. I would just keep a journal where I would just write everything that was on my mind because I
yeah.
just had to get it out. And then it became a place of, where downloads and intuition and things would come and dreams and visions. And so I started writing, doing that. And so journaling was a big part of the healing process of me, grieving and moving through all of that. But, consciously stepping into the writing of the book, I'm not sure exactly when I started with that.
Mm,
Part of me feels like I didn't really start that. So I moved, my kids and I, we were kind of out in the country in the home that I thought was our forever home when Trip passed. And I moved my children and I just to a smaller town, but it had conveniences that I needed easy access to. And so we moved like 9 months after he passed. And I feel like it was in this house that I started
mm,
writing that, like actually tapping into the book and writing. And I mean, again, I kind of did some aspects of the book started where it was just me journaling and getting emotions and just kind of using it as my diary.
yeah.
And some of those things made it into the book and some didn't. And then I mean, I so appreciate everything that you offer for authors and people who are in the process of writing the books. And, so I participated in, I feel like many of those things because it really is just a way where somebody else is helping to hold you accountable. Because my life after Trip died became very unconventional. I don't
Mhm.
have a normal job. And it's part of the reason I think I was able to move into being an author and writing. And it's, I started a nonprofit. And so I work for my nonprofit and I have my own personal transformational spiritual business. And so I just appreciated the consistent check-ins and being able to participate in some of that
Yeah.
to really schedule in the writing time because I wasn't going to take a 3 month sabbatical to go write a book. And, taking ownership and responsibility. I mean, really, the Heather of maybe 6 years ago would have probably looked at this. Oh, I signed that contract, but look at everything that happened. I'm just not going to, like, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And, I probably would have contacted you like, can I get my money back or something?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was absolutely, I could see the interconnectedness of it all and how important it was. Maybe not for anybody else, but just me, to move through that whole process and let it be, I mean, so to the logical mind and to society, it would call it messy and
Mm,
ugly and you didn't have a map and a plan and you didn't stick to it and you know so
well,
it's still beautiful and lovely.
it is, and that's
And I still
Unbound.
need
So
it.
you did it. You did it. And honestly, Heather, it was so powerful to witness that. I remember receiving the email from you when, just a few days after you'd signed the contract to say, look, my husband has passed, and to witness your commitment to, carry on and birth the
Yeah.
book was really quite something, and it's just
Well,
yeah,
thank you.
been powerful to witness and hold space all the way through. I'm curious to know if there were any particular fears or doubts that came up along the way around writing the book, publishing the book. Was there anything that came up for you?
Well, there were definitely pieces where, and this is where a lot of the writing, I just had to get out and say the thing that I was like afraid somebody would know about or
Mhm.
read about, because, a lot of the book, I share things about my relationship with Trip that, if his family were to read or friends were to read, they may not like or appreciate, but it's my perspective. And a big thing that have been learning is in so many of my relationships, and definitely with Trip, I I gaslit myself and made him, for sure more important than me.
Mm,
His experience, he was dealing with cancer. I mean, most people would be like, yes, Heather. And I still agree with that, yes, but also I'm a person too, and have
mm,
and have an experience of that experience as well. And I have a right to share it, and I have a right to speak up for what I would love and what I need and what I deserve, whether my husband or somebody else has cancer or is dying or whatever.
mm,
And so that was a big part of this, is learning to honor myself and my experience and my perspective and how it's changed and shifted, and giving myself permission to allow that. And there was a lot of shame early on for the change that I was experiencing from the loss of my husband, and the perspective shifts and the understandings that I was coming to, and just releasing that.
mm,
There was also like a survivor's guilt. And so, who am I to sit here and share my story? And again, just having to move through all of that and giving myself permission to feel it,
mm,
but then choosing whether I'm gonna continue to sit there and allow it to keep me from doing what I'm wanting to do and being called to do, i.e., write this book, or, continue to move forward.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
how do you feel now as we're recording this conversation? Like we're just over a week out from the book being released. This episode will go live on the release date. How do you feel now that the book is about to make its way into the world?
It's funny. I met with a friend earlier this morning, and she asked me, and I mean, I feel really peaceful.
Mm,
I feel really grateful. It's almost very surreal that I'm here, and it's gonna be out there to do whatever it's meant to do. I definitely don't have any expectations or I'm not, reaching for anything. It just feels like it's such a blessing to me and my journey. And I do feel like somebody will be called to it. And if there's like one word, one phrase, one section that resonates with them, inspires them, transforms them, like you know, I think that's the intention.
yeah,
But it feels just lovely. It's really just the word, and yeah, peaceful. Just it's I'm not nervous if if somebody reads something or and doesn't like it. I don't know that I would care. And that and I just feel like the person I am right now is the person that I was always going to be at this point, who can welcome many different realities and many different understandings and appreciations and perspectives. And I don't know, I kind of have gotten to the point where it's like I've moved through my husband dying. I don't really care what you say or what you think. My prayer is that people appreciate it, and I know it'll find the right people. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
If someone's listening to this, Heather, and they're like in that place, like they're feeling that call to write a book, and maybe they've got some big life stuff going on as well, what one piece of advice would you give them?
I mean, just say yes. Saying yes to yourself and your future, no matter what's happening right now, is, I feel like, just one of the most powerful things that we can do for ourselves. And, that simple choice then allows us to take aligned action so that we can continue forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. Fantastic.
mm.
Before we finish, I just want to talk a little bit about what's next for you because there is another book in the works already. This woman does not hang around, people.
It's so, I mean, maybe that's something I can say is like, if you're feeling the call of a book, it's not just one book. It's not
Mhm.
a coincidence. It's not something that will ever go away.
Mm.
It's something that I do think some of us are meant to use our voices in this way. And, the energy of being an author, I guess the identity of being an author is, telling the story, telling a story, your story, other people's stories, the storyteller. And yeah, when I just a couple months ago, I was finishing the editing and everything with Diary of a 30 something widow, and I was like, is it normal to feel like there's another book coming? Because I had not entered this. I did not sign this contract being like, I'm going to write multiple books. That is not, I was like, I am an author. I will be an author. And in my mind, that was like one book, Heather, and you're good to go. And you're like, no, that's not typically how it goes. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, that makes sense, I guess. Uh,
Mhm.
and so, yeah, the Phoenix Diaries, I signed the contract with Unbound Press again because the process was just so, again, lovely. And it's a collaborative book that feels so powerful. This invitation of the divine feminine to share the visions and the dreams and the knowings that have rocked our realities, and then invited us to create the realities that we're walking in and living in and breathing in and embodying in. And it is, yeah, it's going to be a whole experience because the book itself is an experience.
Mhm.
And so anybody that wants to collaborate will be moving through circle sessions together and just deeper connection, because so many of us, I feel like, have been living on these little islands of
Mm.
knowings, of the visions, and desiring connection. And so, and I know you do this just through the Unbound Press so beautifully, of bringing the women together.
Mm.
And the Phoenix Diaries feels like it wants to be this place where we can just create this safe space for us to share and to be witnessed, to allow ourselves and the things that have scared the shit out of us, but
Mhm.
have just transformed our lives for the better, to be seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I'm excited. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And it feels like, we each get like our piece of this kind of grand puzzle that we're piecing together. And it can feel very isolating. It's like, "Oh, I've got my piece, but I feel like I'm doing this on my own." So in any way we can kind of come together and have somebody hold space. That's so, so powerful. So I love you're going to be doing that through the Phoenix Diary. So if anyone is listening and is curious to know more about that, I mean, what is the best way for people to connect with you, Heather? Generally, for people who are listening and like, oh, I want to know what this woman's up to. I want to hear
I mean,
more.
they can email from hers to yours at gmail.com, and we can have a conversation, we can schedule a call if you're curious. But yeah, it's so funny because I was so excited and it felt so alive. And I was like, yes, we're going to get it started. And then I tapped into the energy of it in a writing retreat that you did. And it transformed me. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's so much bigger than I thought it was. And I had to move through all of that and ultimately had to push it and like, okay, there's more that needs to land, and that's okay. And so, hopefully we'll be looking to start in the fall. And yeah, I'm really excited about it because it's something my soul is craving and desiring. And I love the analogy of the puzzle because I do feel like we all have a piece and we're all moving towards the same
Yeah.
vision,
Yeah.
but we're all getting different like threads of it or different pictures. But when we come together, it's like, oh, we're all working towards the same thing. And that's really cool.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Heather, for those who are listening and they would like to connect with you, not maybe around the Phoenix Diaries, but they would like to follow along, like maybe on your website, social media, what's the best place for them to find out more about you?
well, I mean, I have a couple Instagrams at being what's that long lower dash called?
Oh,
At being Heather Nicole, but what are those?
I don't know. We'll put the link in the show notes though. I
Um,
should know what that's called, but I don't. So
and that feels like that's really a place just for me to be me. And there's, a lot of sharings about the books and things, but then my personal business is Her Heart, and that Instagram is at From Hers to Yours.
mm,
And that website, fromherstoyours.com, is a great place just to kind of take a look at my different offerings and the things that are coming through. And I also have my nonprofit if anybody wants to take a look at that or needs support with that. We provide financial assistance for people who are looking for alternative healthcare options. And really, any decision that we make from an empowered place that aligns us more deeply with our soul and the calling that we're feeling within ourselves is, I believe, a health decision
yeah,
and
yeah.
a choice of health. And
Hmm.
so the things that the Four Leaf Clover Project will support is so expansive. I don't think people understand. It could be, if they want to write a book and they want support with being able to sign the contract with the Unbound Press, Four Leaf Clover Project will help you with that
Yeah,
because that is absolutely, following the call of your soul, which will support your ultimate health and well-being and align you with your prosperity. So, um,
absolutely.
at the Four Leaf Clover Project is Instagram, and then fourleafcloverproject.com. So yeah, there's lots of different ways to find me.
Yeah,
I'm not hiding.
you're not. You
I
are
am
definitely
not
not.
hiding anymore.
And definitely not once the book is out of the world. So,
Yeah.
oh, Heather, thank you so much. It's been such a joy to have
Ah,
this conversation. I'm so grateful for our connection, and we get to continue the journey now with the Phoenix Diaries. Thank you so much for joining me
thank
today.
you. Thank you. Bye.